Dot Solutions. Add-on Desire.
Hello viewers, welcome to Dot Solutions Daily Current Affairs. I'm Lokesh Penugonda. This session is designed for aspirants who are preparing for banking, groups and such other competitive examinations. We cover news articles from both the Hindu and the Indian Express. Make use of this session. Our first start. In an interview, the Minister of Information and Technology, Mr. Ravi Shankar, has stated that the government is not in favor of decrypting or not in favor of breaking the WhatsApp encryption for all the users, but rather he have stated that the government will only ask the WhatsApp to provide information related to only few individuals so that the government can prevent and the government can identify the criminals. So we'll first see what is this WhatsApp encryption. Let's say there is person A. Person A, when he wants to send a message, when he wants to send a picture to person B, he might be using the WhatsApp instant messaging app. And when he sends this information through his app, the information when it is leaving his message will be encrypted. That means the message will be converted from English to a code so that when it is in the transmission, no other person can know what the information is containing, and only when this information after reaching to person B's WhatsApp, it will be decrypted. So when the information is under transmission, even the WhatsApp authorities cannot know what is the information that is being shared. This is called as the end-to-end encryption being used by WhatsApp and many other instant messaging applications. But there is a problem. So what is the problem? When person A, if he is sending some fake news or if he is sending information that may be causing riots, that may be causing problems to the national security, even in that case, the government might not be able to prevent the information transmission and the government might not able to know who is sending information to who. So in the last few years, what we have been witnessing is the misuse of social media platforms and the instant messaging platforms. There have been instances of WhatsApp being used for sharing fake news, for sharing hatred news. So this sharing of fake news and hate news are impacting the society in a negative way, and as the WhatsApp is using end-to-end encryption, the government could not identify the person who is responsible behind these information transmissions. So the government, through its new IT rules, has come out with a provision where it has mandated the social media platforms to provide the information the government is requesting so as to identify the person who is behind such fake news and hate news. And in this aspect, the Minister of IT is stating that we will not ask the WhatsApp to break encryption for all the users. So in general, the privacy of WhatsApp users will be intact, whereas only those persons who are misusing this WhatsApp will be penalized by the government authorities. So this is what Mr. Information Technology has stated. Next we have an article where a United Nations body has removed the actor Mr. Randeep Hooda as its ambassador. So we'll see what is this UN body that is in the news. The CMS, which stands for Conservation of Migratory Species, is a United Nations body. So CMS stands for Conservation of Migratory Species. Migratory species. This is a United Nations body. From the name itself, you can understand that this is a body which is dealing with conservation of the migratory species. This migratory species may be wild animals, it may be birds, it may be even fishes. And you should know that this conservation of migratory species is also called as the Bonn Convention. The Bonn Convention. Why is it also called as the Bonn Convention? This convention, which has led to the conservation of the migratory species body establishment, has took place in a city called as Bonn, and the city is in Germany. the city is in Germany, and that's why this convention which has led to the body's establishment is also called as the Bonn Convention. And you should know that in the year 2020, the 13th Conference of Parties of the Conservation of Migratory Species was hosted in India. So we have this body, and every year a country will host the annual meetings of this body, and the annual meetings is called as the Conference of the Parties. And the 13th Conference of Parties of this Conservation of Migratory Species was hosted in India, and this was hosted in Gandhinagar of the Gujarat state. So this is regarding the conservation of the migratory species that is in the news. Next, we have an article where edible oils in the country are becoming costlier day by day. We'll see what are the reasons behind the inflation of the edible oils. India has imported edible oils worth 61,550 crores for the year 2019 and 20. And the Department of Commerce has stated that India imports 56% of the edible oil needs from several countries. So, if we require 100 liters of edible oil for domestic consumption, then 56 liters would have to be imported. From this, we can understand that we are heavily import dependent from other countries, and we'll see what are the reasons that has led to increase in the edible oil prices. First is India imports palm oil. We import palm oil mainly from countries of Indonesia and Malaysia. And in the country Malaysia, there are worker strikes that are taking place in the palm oil plantations. So there is disruption of cultivation of palm oil in the country Malaysia, and even in some cases in Indonesia as well. That's why there is low output of palm oil. Next is the low yield production in the country of Argentina and Brazil. We import several edible oils from Argentina and Brazil. Due to drier conditions, due to low rainfall, the yield of these two countries when it comes to edible oils have come down, and the total yield that it could export has also come down. And next is China has started importing the edible oils in large quantities. Earlier also, China used to import edible oils, but now that China is importing in large quantities, there is less edible oil for other countries to consume. That's why, for all these reasons, the prices of the edible oils in the country and in the international market are going up. We have an article where the Central Bank of Bangladesh has in principle approved $200 million currency swap with the country Sri Lanka. So what do you mean by currency swap? It means generally a loan a country is providing in one currency, and the country which is taking this loan will return this loan along with interest in other currency. We will explain this with the Bangladesh and Sri Lanka currency swap agreement. Bangladesh will give Sri Lanka $200 million, and Sri Lanka in return will give this money back in Sri Lankan rupees. So the interest and the principal amount will be in the Sri Lankan rupees. Why are countries in general, and why is Sri Lanka going for currency swap? Sri Lanka has a debt obligation of nearly $4.5 billion for the financial year 21. That means it have to repay back $4.5 billion worth loan in this 1 year, and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has stated that the government has only forex reserves of $4 billion. That means if it does not take a loan from other countries, it cannot repay back the loan obligations it has. And the Sri Lankan government has stated that due to the COVID pandemic and due to the Easter attacks that took place in Sri Lanka, the number of tourists that are coming to Sri Lanka have been drastically reduced. And when the tourists in the country are reducing, the money that you are getting would also be reduced. So the Sri Lankan government could not get enough foreign exchange, and that's why it is asking various countries for currency swap, so that even after taking money in dollars, it can repay back this loan in Sri Lankan rupees. Why is Sri Lanka asking Bangladesh when it has a bigger neighbor called India? The Sri Lankan government has asked India $1 billion currency swap, and its request is still under consideration. That's why Bangladesh for now has provided $200 million. Next, we have an article where the United States State Department's emails are being attacked by a cyber attack through the Russian cyber criminals. So the Microsoft, which is a firm in the United States, has stated that the attack that has targeted the United States Department's emails, the Microsoft, which is a multinational firm based in United States, it has stated that after analyzing the recent cyber attack that has targeted the United States government websites and government servers, is most likely originating from Russia. So recently there was a cyber attack which has targeted United States government servers and websites, and after targeting them, they have been able to delete and they have able to capture and copy many sensitive information from the government websites. And Microsoft, after analyzing the software attacks, has stated that there is a group called as Hafnium. The group's name is Hafnium, and it has stated that this is the group that is responsible for the new cyber attacks that took place in the United States. And also Microsoft has stated that last year also there was a cyber attack on the United States websites, and this cyber attack is titled as SolarWinds, and Microsoft is stating that not only Hafnium is responsible for the new attacks, but it is also responsible for the cyber attacks that took place last year, and the name given is SolarWinds. So SolarWinds is an attack that took place on the United States government websites in the last year, and Hafnium is a Russian criminal cyber gang which is responsible for both these cyber attacks. Next, we have an article where the United States for the first time has overtaken Mauritius to get the second position as the largest source of foreign direct investment. So we have the foreign direct investment, which means the investors from foreign countries can invest their money in Indian firms. And for the financial year 21, which has ended on March 31st of 2021, so for the financial year 21, the foreign direct investments in the country India is nearly $59.5 billion. It is nearly $59.5 billion. And the largest FDI that is coming to India is from Singapore. It is coming from Singapore. And the second largest FDI is coming from the United States of America. From last few years, it is the Mauritius which is the second largest investor in India, and now the United States has overtaken Mauritius to become second largest supplier of the foreign direct investment in India. And now the third FDI investor in India is the Mauritius. So if you have a question which is asking about the top FDI investors in India, then you should know that these are the Singapore, United States and Mauritius, and the FDI for the financial year 21 is $59.5 billion, and according to the Ministry of Commerce, this money is nearly 19% more compared to the foreign direct investments that India was attracting in the year 2020. So even when there is a pandemic, even when there is loss of lives and loss of livelihoods, Indian companies could attract nearly $60 billion, which is nearly 20% higher than the amount that India has got in the last financial year. Next, we have an article where the Union government has come out with a scheme called as PM Cares Child Relief. When the COVID pandemic has struck the country last year, we have seen thousands of deaths. And this year, particularly when it comes to the COVID second wave, we have seen nearly lakhs of people getting infected and thousands of individuals getting died due to this COVID pandemic. And as a result of it, many children has become orphans. So children who has lost both their parents and become orphan would be given nearly 10 lakh rupees from this PM Cares Child Relief Scheme. So this is a scheme that is planning to provide many benefits to the children who has become orphans due to the coronavirus. And now we will see important provisions of the scheme. First is it will provide 10 lakh corpus fund for every child who become orphan by the COVID-19. And apart from giving 10 lakh rupees to these children, the government has stated that these children can go and admit themselves in any private school, or in a Kendriya Vidyalaya. So they can join any private school or any government school, and whatever the fees that these children are supposed to pay, the government will pay them instead of these children. So the government will provide 10 lakh rupees, and the government will provide the educational fees that these children would require. And also you should know that this 10 lakh would be given to children only when they become 23 years. So only when they are 23 years, they get this 10 lakh rupees along with other interest the 10 lakh rupees will be getting. So these are some important provisions the PM Cares Child Relief Scheme will be providing. Next, we have an article where a union territory in India has launched a survey to count and identify the nomadic population. So this is the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir, to identify and know how many individuals are general migrants, that is how many people are nomadic people, has launched a survey. So what is the objective of the survey? To provide the benefits of various schemes, the government officials should know how many people are the intended beneficiaries and where does these people generally live. And nomadic population generally migrate from one place to other place. That's a reason for the government for not being able to provide the general benefits. So let's say there is person A. Person A for a short period of time in a year is living in a city X, and later he is migrating to a village Y, and later he is migrating to some other place called Z. And when he is moving from one place to other place, government officials cannot provide him enough benefits from various schemes. So to identify how many people are belonging to the nomadic sections and to provide various benefits to them, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has brought out this nomadic people population survey scheme. Next, we have an article where the ripples from Yas and surging tides are said to be devastating the Sundarbans. So what are these Sundarbans? Sundarbans are wetlands and mangroves. They are wetlands and mangroves mainly in the Indian state of West Bengal and in the Bangladesh. So you can see in this image there is a huge area of wetlands and mangroves. This is named as the Sundarbans, and when there was a cyclone called Yas, and due to the increasing tidal surges, there is devastating impact on these mangroves. Mangroves are really important for the coastal people, because when there is a cyclone, when there is a tsunami, these trees, that is the short trees which are staying in the intertidal region, which are generally called as the mangroves, will protect the coastal people from these harmful tides and harmful cyclones. And when you don't have mangroves, the impact of the cyclones is high. So the Indian government and Bangladeshi government have taken many steps to protect the Sundarban mangroves, but still, due to increasing number of cyclones that are hitting the West Bengal and Bay of Bengal region, the Sundarbans are said to be highly negatively affected. Next, we have an article where the West African leaders are planning to meet to discuss the condition in Mali. Mali, you can see in this image, is a West African country, and the capital of Mali is. Next, we have an article where the West African leaders are set to meet to discuss about the issue of Mali. Mali, you can see in this image, is a West African country. The capital of this West African country is Bamako. And earlier this month, there was a coup in the country Mali. So what do you mean by a coup? The elected government of the Mali has been replaced with unelected people, mainly the military of the Mali. And this is being termed as a coup. And now the West African leaders are planning to meet through the organization called as ECOWAS. So what is the ECOWAS that was mentioned here in the article? ECOWAS stands for Economic Community of West African Nations. So ECOWAS stands for Economic Community of West African Nations. West African Nations. So this is a body of 15 West African countries. The objective of this body is to promote healthy relations between the member countries. So first is promote relationship between the member countries. Next is to protect the human rights of the people. Next is to protect the human rights of the people. And now when there is a coup in the country Mali, the people of this country have been protesting against this. And when the people are protesting this, the people have been killed and the people have been jailed due to their protests. And that's why the ECOWAS is set to meet to discuss the complicated issue of Mali. Now we have an article where the children under the midday scheme are getting an aid of 100 rupees. So the Ministry of Education has stated that it is providing children rupees 100 under the midday meal scheme. First we'll see about the midday meal scheme. This is a centrally sponsored scheme. So what do you mean by a centrally sponsored scheme? When we use the word sponsored scheme or the centrally sponsored scheme, it means that a portion of the amount that is needed for implementation of the scheme would be provided by the state governments as well. So if we say that a scheme is a central sector scheme, then the entire amount that is needed for implementation of the scheme will be provided by the union government. Whereas if you call a scheme as a centrally sponsored scheme, it means that the state governments would have to pay a portion of the money that would be needed for the implementation of the scheme. This is a centrally sponsored scheme definition. And now we'll see what is this midday meal scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme started in the year 1995. So what does this scheme do? The scheme will provide cooked midday meals That means the scheme, the government through the scheme will provide lunch to children who are in the age group of 6 to 14 years and who are studying from 1st to 8th standard. 1st to 8th standard. So we have children who are studying in government schools to promote the education of the children and to provide nutritious food to these children. The government in the year 1995 has come out with this scheme, and now the government is stating that it will provide a meager amount of 100 rupees for the beneficiaries. First we will see why the government is planning to provide 100 rupees to the beneficiaries of the midday meal scheme. As schools in the country have been closed, the government is only providing dry rations. Dry rations. Let's say you want to eat food, then you would have to cook this food. So the government is first providing you rations. It may be providing you rice, but to cook this rice you would need some money, and government is stating that we are providing 100 rupees so that you can utilize the dry rations we are giving to cook food. And the several RTI right to education activists are stating that this is a very small amount and this amount would not be enough for anything. So you should know that this is just 100 rupees for a year. The government is providing this. Next we have an article where the country Germany has apologized for the genocide in Namibia. So we'll first see where Namibia is. Namibia, you can see in this image, is a West African country and it is opening into the Atlantic Ocean. The capital of Namibia is Windhoek. Windhoek. Now we'll see about the genocide in Namibia. First, what is a genocide? Genocide is nothing but mass killing of people at a time. So when did the genocide happen in Namibia? First, we need to understand the reason for this genocide. Starting from the 1880s, the country Germany has colonized the parts of modern day Namibia. We have India. India was colonized by the Britain. Similarly, the country Namibia was colonized by the Germany in the 1880s, and the locals, mainly the Herero community and one more community, have protested and have opposed this colonization. And when the local tribes have opposed this and are in rebellion against the Germany government, which are the colonizing country, have killed thousands of people who are protesting this colonization. This killing of nearly 50,000 people who are local tribes living in the country Namibia is called as genocide of Namibia. And now for the first time ever, the German authorities have formally recognized this genocide happened in Namibia under their government. And they have stated that they will provide $1.2 billion. They have stated that they are providing $1.2 billion for community development programs in the country Namibia. Next, we have an article where commando training is being given to people who are protecting the Kaziranga forests. So we have the Kaziranga National Park, we have the Kaziranga Wildlife Sanctuary. These two are in the state of Assam. And we have been hearing the news about poaching of various animals in the state of Assam. So to prevent such issues, the government of Assam is providing commando training to those people who are protecting the Kaziranga related wildlife sanctuaries. Next, we have an article where it is stated that the Colombian army has tightened its grip on Cali. So first we'll see what is Cali. Cali is the third largest city in the country Colombia, and you can see in this image Colombia is a northern country in the South American continent. So you can state that it is a South American continent country, and it is sharing its borders with countries such as Venezuela, Panama, Ecuador, Peru and Brazil. The capital of Colombia is Bogota. the capital is Bogota. From the last 1 year, due to the increasing COVID cases, due to increasing poverty in the country, several people are protesting against the government, and government through its law enforcement agencies and army have tried to quell these protests, and now the Colombian army, after killing 20 people, have taken control of the city of Cali. Next we have an article where the Chelsea has won the European Championship. In India, we have the IPL, which stands for Indian Premier League. It is a cricket tournament. Similarly, we have the European Premier League, which is a football related sport, and Chelsea, which is a team of this football championship, has won this year's championship or the Premier League. Next we have an article where it is stated that Miss Pooja Rani has punched her way up to win a gold medal in the Asian Boxing Championship. The Asian Boxing Championship this year is being held in the city of Dubai, which is the capital of United Arab Emirates, and India has won one gold medal in the Asian Boxing Championship. This could be possible through Miss Pooja Rani's wonderful performance in the Asian Boxing Championship. Next we have an article where the National Museum is stated to be not moving from Delhi, and it is stated that it is being dressed up for the G20's 2023 meeting that is scheduled to take place in India. So we'll see what is the G20. G20 is nothing but group of 20 developing and developed countries, and in the year 2023 India is hosting this group's annual meeting, and this meeting is scheduled to take place in Delhi. And for this purpose, the government has stated that the National Museum, which is in the capital, will be developed so that the leaders of the G20 countries, when they come to India, when they come to Delhi, they can visit this museum and they can understand the cultural significance of the country India. So this is with respect to the G20 summit, which is being hosted by India in the year 2023. And with this, we have come to the end of this session. Inform about ADOTS initiative to your other aspirant friends, and you can visit the ADOTS website to attempt mock tests on daily current affairs. Thank you for watching.
Add-on solutions. Add-on desires.